said, loved your last video. That's what I want to talk about here first today, because I didn't get a chance to really talk about it after making it. I definitely have gotten a lot of feedback about this video. Most people seem to agree with the things that I've said. I wanted to check out some of the YouTube comments, talk about the responses to my tweets on this issue. I feel like a lot of times people want to go all or nothing in describing their game that they love. And if you've watched my channel, you know that I have always been, and probably always will be, one of the biggest cheerleaders for Final Fantasy XIV overall. Like, I hesitate to criticize usually. Before I say anything critical, I have really thought long and hard about it. And that's why this video, I had to take a long break from the game first, just to make extra, triple, super sure that I wasn't just being critical because I was, burnt out, like a lot of people have been telling me, or I was just like, oh, I need to take a break. So I did. I took that long break, and looking back now, like, I feel really clear-minded about things, and I definitely still think that the Endwalker patch content has been underwhelming. I like the video. I'm glad someone has the guts to actually call out the devs and the choices they make. Listen, this is the thing that I've had a lot of people tell me, which is wild, because, listen, it shouldn't take guts and courage to share critical feedback about the game. But more and more, I'm increasingly concerned about this sense in the community that you can't really criticize the game. That it's like, you've got to really feel extremely strongly and have done a shitload of research before you say anything critical. And it almost, I actually had somebody write me on Twitter in a DM and say that they felt like they had been gaslit for a long time, because they did agree, and they were also really disappointed with a lot of the content we've gotten in Walker patches, but they felt like they had been gaslit from everyone refusing to criticize the game at all. Everyone just constantly telling them that everything is perfect and everything is wonderful. But like, this is really bad for the game long term. I think this is really toxic and dangerous for it, because we have to be able to discuss issues. And I don't even think that I was that, like, negative in my video. Like, I feel like I was pretty fair. I mean, I love the game. I'm still playing it. I find things to do, okay? I'm one of these people that I love the game so much, I will go out of my way to find shit to do, even if I feel like the content they gave us that's new, I don't really care that much about. I'm not that hyped on. Well, I'll still find something just because I want to be in this world. I love this world so much. Say what you want about the WoW community, or really any other game community where the community is considered to be more toxic. And say what you want about all of those. And Lord knows they have a shitload of problems, but at least they're not afraid to criticize their own game. And so the devs actually have stuff to work with. They have things to work on. They know, like, they have a general idea of, like, where they can go based on what players really like and what players don't like. If you don't say anything, they're guessing. They don't know. Even some of the bigger FF14 streamers and YouTubers have been taking big hiatus. Here's another part of the discussion, which I did not put in the video. I thought about it, but I didn't put in there. Content creation and streaming is a fairly important part of the puzzle, I feel, when it comes to marketing your game, and when it comes to spreading the word about your game and getting people to give a shit about your game who don't know about your game. Content creators play a really vital role in that. Like, how many games have you found out about or learned more about because of YouTube or because of Twitch or something? And for content creators to really focus on your game and have that be a thing that they can do long term, there needs to be at least some interest in the game that's ongoing. You gotta throw them a bone here. You gotta give them a little something to work with. And if there's not enough hype, there's not enough interest to the point that someone going to stream your game, they're not gonna be able to do that sustainably as a professional for an extended period of time. They're not going to be able to put as much energy on that game, on your game that you have, compared to other games. Like, they're going to have to not put all their eggs in one basket, because, I mean, you do kind of have to follow the trends somewhat. Not all the way, but somewhat. It needs to be something on your mind if you are going to do this professionally. And, like, for example, Savix is an example of a fantastic content creator that we had making videos for Final Fantasy 14. Maybe at some point he'll make videos again for Final Fantasy 14. But he made some of the most hilarious, high-quality videos I've ever seen for Final Fantasy 14. It was an absolute blessing to have him doing this, because shitload of people are seeing it and makes them excited about the game. But he ended up leaving because he said there's just nothing to do. And so now he's back in WoW, and I don't know, maybe in Dawn Trail he'll come by again. But that's the result. That's what's going to happen. Like, if people just feel like they don't have anything to do, or there's not enough people who care about their video about it, or whatever, you can lose content creators this way, you can lose streamers this way. And that only compounds the issue. It's a cycle. It's this negative cycle of feeding in on itself. He said that catering to hyper casuals is just as harmful to an MMO as catering to the top. Now, that's for my next video. I'm going to be discussing that point you just made about catering to hyper casuals, because I have a whole spiel about that I don't even want to get into right now. We'll talk about that next time, about the casual experience. But what I will say, regards to your other point, catering to the top 1%, this is critical. Because you have to be able to keep those core players happy. And by that I mean the players who are dedicating a shitload of time to covering your game. Like, content creators is part of that, but also like core gamers who want to play your game day in and day out. Like, the most like diehard fans. You got to keep those people happy, because usually, or not always, but a lot of the time, those people are very fucking loud. They are very fucking loud about how much they love your game, and they're very excited, and they are very passionate, and they are ready to spread the word high and low to everyone who will listen about how fucking great your game is. And so, like, to a much greater degree than casuals might, who are just kind of learning their way around, figuring it out. A lot of issues that FFXIV had before, like too formulaic patches, like too predictable, like the dungeons getting kind of too easy, right? These were issues that were there for a while, but we were able to really overlook these and gloss over it and forget about it, because the rest of the content was good and we were happy with the rest of the things we were getting. So we're like, well, it's some things that I wish were better, but overall I'm feeling really good. But this time, I feel like with a lot of the content just not having any staying power at all, has caused these cracks to show. She used to make announcements and apologies for the smallest things. Feels like neither he or anyone in the dev team is showing they're listening to the player base. I feel like Yoshi P has just been really busy. And I did mention this in my video. I think he has just been too busy. Like, I know 100%, without a doubt, Yoshi P cares so fucking much about this game. He loves this game, and I know he loves his community, and he wants the best for it. But I also feel like the man is too tired, and his attention has been split between too many things. And I don't want him on the board of directors. I just don't want him having to worry so much about all this other shit. I want him to focus as much on FFXIV as possible. And I don't want there to be any question about what he's been doing, and about you feeling like the dev team isn't listening, you feel like they're not listening to the player base. I felt that a little bit with Deep Dungeon, with the new Deep Dungeon. I couldn't talk for an hour about every feature in my video because the video is already 45 minutes. I cut it down to like 36. But with Deep Dungeon, usually the devs will see how players are engaging with a piece of content, and then they'll lean into that. And they should know, if they were paying attention at all, that Deep Dungeon is very popular for leveling. Like Palace of the Dead is very, very popular for leveling. And Endwalker is sorely in need of other leveling pathways for alt jobs besides dungeons. Like, we don't have Baja that used to serve that purpose. And Deep Dungeon, unfortunately, is not good for leveling. So it made me feel like, well, why wouldn't they see this as an issue? Don't they know what people are using this for? You said, I think one of the big issues right now is the world feeling like it's alive. If you head into most expansion zones, there are maybe 1 or 2 people you might run into, but it could be so much more with something like using the fate system to incentivize us to go in the open world. I really feel like just the smallest thing would help tremendously. Okay, what if they made it so this week is Fates week, y'all? This week is Fates week, and if you go do Fates, there's going to be the Fates vendor, and you're going to get the special currency for doing Fates because it's Fates week, and you can do Fates anywhere in the whole world. And then next time it's going to be, I don't know, Dungeons week, and you can pick any dungeon in the game you want to do. I don't know, just maybe like time walking, but with different pieces of content. I just feel like they haven't thought about it. They haven't even tried to incentivize things. That's all. That was a huge relief when watching your videos, knowing that I'm not the only one who's bored with the game's content currently. I never hear anyone else commenting on that anywhere else. I think that there is this stigma. There really is a stigma about criticizing the game because we're just not comfortable with it. I guess we got in the habit of always feeling like this is, you know, the best game ever. And there's nothing wrong with it, or if there is any problem, it's very minor. And it makes people uncomfortable to admit that there could be some things that need massive changes. I feel like it was an era where Square Enix was more willing to experiment and take really crazy risks with core systems. They released Diadem in its original state. And in Diadem's original state, gear could randomly drop called ethereal gear. And it was basically Titan forging random stats on it. And so this meant you had a tiny % chance of getting Abyss item from grinding mobs mindlessly in Diadem. And people were really fucking mad. Well, I mean, perhaps rightfully so. Because maybe it shouldn't have gone all the way up to Abyss. But it was still pretty exciting, and there was so many people there, and it was like all these islands with these huge dinosaurs on each island, and we were all flying from island to island, and all the PS3 players were getting disconnected because they couldn't handle it. And yeah, there were things that needed to be improved with Diadem. It wasn't perfect, but I do feel like it was. I would rather see them take those crazy risks with core systems than not. Because you can't say that they didn't take risks at all in Wonka. They did. Island Sanctuary is brand new. Criterion Invariant, this is brand new concepts. And they took a risk with the Relic Journey. Okay, that's probably not as good an example. But that's probably not as good of an example. But with Island Sanctuary and Criterion Invariant, these are very, very brand new ideas, and that's cool. But like I said in my video, I feel like they just didn't innovate enough. They didn't go far enough because they're just innovating. They were taking the risks on surface stuff, but not on core things like what other things can we give players to strive for, to chase towards, besides raid loot. Because not everybody wants to raid. And even the people who want to raid don't want to do that all day, every day. We want to have other things to do too. The biggest difficulty that any MMO developer has, and this was something that Ian Hazakostas also mentioned in that interview that I linked to in my video, it's the fact that your biggest challenge in designing an MMO as a place that's really like its own little world, and there's ideally a shitload of different ways to play the game. He said you can ask 10 players what they do in World of Warcraft. Like, what is their play style in World of Warcraft? And all of them could give you completely different answers. And that's the challenge. That's the beauty of an MMO, and that's the challenge of an MMO. So, like, look, I definitely sympathize with how difficult this is for the devs to accomplish and get it right. You have to cater, like, some people are like, yeah, well, I'm a fishing main, and that's enough for them. A lot of people are like, well, I mainly do mahjong. that's enough for them. Or I just level every job, but then that's not gonna last forever. At some point you will get all the jobs. Maybe some people just decorate their houses all day. And so that's a pathway. That's an in-game pathway for them. I think that what you really want to do is open up as many pathways as possible. That's why I think that Baja was such a great idea and Eureka was such a great idea, because it allowed a lot of these players who have different pathways to all meet up in one place for different reasons. It wasn't just one reason only to be there. And so you get to meet people who do play the game completely differently than you. And actually, that's something that was fantastic about Eureka. Eureka had Baldessian Arsenal, which is this huge 56-man raid at the end of it. And Eureka was really casual content. It was a long grind, and anyone can do it if you just put in the time. But at the very end, you unlock BA, this amazing 56-man raid. And it was hard enough you need to pay attention. Not ultimate level hard, but a good level of difficulty that everyone is going to feel some challenge. And it will draw in players who are interested in challenge, but it will also draw in casual players who are not that used to a whole lot of challenge and responsibility yet. And allow these people to come together to do something that everybody could enjoy. And that is so fucking hard to do in an MMO, but they did it. They did it with BA. And because of that, casual players are meeting more hardcore players. And people who are just there for the grind and glam are meeting people who are there for the challenge. And this allowed so many different people to experience parts of the game they might not have otherwise experienced. And by the way, here's another thing. If you disagree with me, if you think that I'm way off base, if you think I'm wrong, and you're like, I'm just full of shit, I encourage you to just tell me, don't be afraid to speak up, because, critical feedback, it goes both ways. I only ask people to be polite and to be civil. That's all. But I'm respecting everybody's opinion here. And, yeah, I'm not afraid to hear the critical feedback. I'm not afraid to share it. And I definitely have had a lot of people pretty mad for the last few days. Never heard so many people say that they want to play FFXIV, but when they log in, can't find anything to do. I'm hopeful for Dawn Trail, but I wish they'd shake up the patch formula a bit to keep things fresher for longer. And then someone was like, can't find anything to do. And FFXIV is such a crazy thing for me to hear. There's literally so many things to do in FFXIV. It's like being given everything you've ever wanted and then demanding more. And I said, well, and we ended up having a pretty good understanding about this. I think when people say this, they don't mean that there's literally zero raids, hunts, dungeons, etc. I think it's more a feeling that there's no goal they're excited to chase after. Yeah, it's not like a literal statement of there's nothing to do, because clearly there are things to do. You could go do every side quest in the game. You could feed every alligator and capture every alligator for Island Sanctuary. You could, mine and gather every item in your gathering log. These are things to do. They definitely exist. You could do ocean fishing. Doesn't that count as content? It's even fairly fun. It's surprisingly fun to do ocean fishing. The thing is, I guess for me, a lot of stuff starts to feel like it's all side content. Like, well, that's side content, that's side content, and that's side content, and that's side content. I don't want the whole game to feel like it's side content. You need a little bit more than that to get enough people in the game that the game is healthy socially. It's about having enough people to populate FCs and lead community events and drive interest in the game. Like, you can't, if you keep telling everybody to go play other games and just go take breaks and go do other stuff, you're telling everyone that constantly, there's not going to be anybody left in the game when you do want to play. it's just, this whole thing can get way out of hand. And I think that the community just hasn't really seen how going towards that extreme end of the spectrum can be devastating for the game as a social experience, which it honestly, to be really tinfoil hat about this, my biggest worry is that the devs are aware of this. They know that going really far in that direction can result in the erosion of social groups. And this is why they're adding more and more social, solo content and small, tiny group content. Because maybe that's just the direction that they want to take the game in. I feel like that's really tinfoil hatty, but that's the impression that I've had from Endwalker's patch content, and that's really, really worrisome for me. I hate people saying go play something else, it's what Yoshi P wants. Yeah, it's like sitting down to your favorite restaurant and everything's been taken off the menu except a couple things, and you're like, hey, where's the enchiladas? Why is there only one thing on the menu now? What happened? Or only like 2 things? Where's everything that I liked? And they're like, oh, well, we just wanted you to go try other restaurants. So we don't want you to always eat here for everything. That's crazy. We just want you to go explore every other restaurant. Well, I do that all the time, but right now I want to eat at this restaurant. This one was my favorite. I like it here. I want to be here. That's why I'm here right now. Like, yeah, it's wild to me that people are like, they shouldn't add more stuff to the game that makes people want to play it, because then people will be trapped in the game forever. They'll be imprisoned and they will be unable to leave. Like, do you have any self-autonomy at all? Like, can you? Because for me, like, I've been playing WoW for a long time. And in Shadowlands, when that shit got way out of hand and there was just too much shit to do and I was annoyed, you know what I did? I just stopped playing. I was like, wow, this is too annoying. This is too much shit to do. I feel like this is too much pressure, so I'm just gonna stop playing now. And that was pretty easy for me to do. Like, you don't, you don't need Yoshi P to make the game. So there's like room for breaks so that you can walk away. You can just walk away. You have that choice. But I don't know. I don't know. Content shouldn't be dead in 1 week. It shouldn't, but that's because we live in a time where everyone in the world will binge things. Yes, that's true. People will binge things, which is why they have to account for that whenever they design long-term content. And that is something they did account for in the past with Eureka and with Baja. And really any relic grind, it had enough to do in it that it would take you more than a week. You said, I think it's unfair. The things they have been implemented was asked for. Easier way to grind relics, smaller, more difficult raids. Yeah. I was really hyped for this difficult small group content. And I don't know anyone who's done Criterion who didn't think that it was fantastic as a piece of content. It's very well designed. It's fun. It's innovative. It's amazing in so many different ways. But they are not incentivizing players to go do it. There's no reward there's no reward. There's no progression. There's no mastery system. It's not even horizontal progression to do with it. And so it was kind of dead in the water. And that's on them. I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's for the love of the game that you should do it. If it's so good, if everyone loves Criterion so much, then why don't they just do it because it's fun? And that's a romantic idea. And you know what? Let's say some people will do that. And some people actually do. But it's a harsh reality that that's a minority of people that will do it just for the love of it. There needs to be hype around it and incentive around it for players to want to do it. Maybe someone who's done the content, they'll fall in love with it and they'll want to do it time after time. That's actually how I feel about BA, my favorite piece of content in the entire game. I will go do it. I've got everything I could ever want from there. I don't need anything else, but I'm always happy to go back because it's awesome. But Is that what would have got me in the door to begin with? No. No. I only feel that way because I've done it enough times and I'm comfortable with it. I know I love it. But to get people in the door, you gotta, you know, give them a little piece of candy or a little treat or something to get them like, oh, I heard about that thing I can get from doing that. I should go over there. And then maybe once they're in there, they will love it and keep doing it for the love of the game. It's time to check the comments. People seek to have big group activities in an MMO, and being lacking in that can be fatal to the overall player base. Hopefully Dawn Trail will provide more in that aspect. I completely agree. And like I said, I love the Alliance raids, the 24 player raids, but they don't feel like cooperative content. They're super easy to do. They're meant to be super easy to do. Sort of just blaze through it. Don't worry about anything too much. Clear it and you're done. It's not like there's a whole lot of communication that needs to go on. And once you've got your glams and the minion from it, if you're going to go for that, you really don't need to keep doing it. It's just a fun roller coaster ride. Yeah, I like it for what it is. I don't necessarily want them to change Alliance raids. It serves a very specific purpose. It's really casual roulette content, and that's fine. I'm okay with it. But I really miss bigger group content where you do need to coordinate it somewhat. You sent me a wall of text. Okay, I'm running roulettes, farming new tomestones, gathering items, crafting stuff, doing blue-bait spell hunting, occasionally playing gold saucer, socializing with FC and friends. I'm having a blast. I don't feel this doomsaying. If Endwalker is the worst expansion at all. Medi, that is amazing. I am really, really happy to hear that, and I hope that you can continue having fun doing all those things that you've chosen to do. But, like, I really, really, I don't want to be doomsaying. And I said it a couple times in the video that, guys, I'm not doomsaying. I'm not saying this is the worst game ever and it's going to shit and it's dead. I really don't feel like that at all. I have some serious concerns based on trends I've seen among general engagement with the player base at large. Like, how many people I know that are engaged with the game, how many people are still caring about the game a week after a major patch came out, and all that. And if you're an exception to that, it's really good. I hope more people are like you. If you're an exception to that and you're having fun doing the content that they're releasing, then I don't want you to feel like that's wrong. In fact, I want to encourage that. I want you to enjoy what there is. I started playing a month or two ago and just got into Stormblood. Would you guys say it's not worth getting in this game too much? I would not say that. I would not say that it is not worth getting into the game, because, and let me be really, really clear about this. If you're a new player and you're leveling and you're not in Endgame yet, you are not going to notice problems with Endwalker. Probably at all. Maybe if you try to find an FC, anyways, a little bit, but in general, you are not going to experience the huge issues with Endwalker that a lot of us have, because you have a massive backlog of content to do. You have a ton of old shit to do. So I really wouldn't stress too much about it. Just be happy that you came in a really good time, because by the time you have to worry about that, you'll probably, Dawn Trail will be out. As a player that finally reached Endgame only recently for the first time, I've been having a great time and feeling like I have tons to do. There you go. This is such an important comment. This is such an important comment. This is exactly what I just tried to tell y'all. Because someone who said that, you know, I found all these different things to do and I'm a pretty new player. Listen to this guy. I'm a new player. I just got to Endgame. I'm having a great time. I feel like I have a lot to do. But looking back, very little of what I'm doing is Endwalker post-patch. Old relics, leveling jobs, finishing all yellow quests, collecting. If I had all that done and was dependent on just Endwalker post-patch, I would probably feel way different. That's it. That's what I've been trying to say. Like, if you're a new player, you have a backlog of content. to do that's going to keep you really busy and really happy for a long time. But at a certain point, if you're relying on the new patch content to keep you entertained and to keep you, somewhat invested with the game, at some points, then it's been slim pickings for these patches. I don't want to disparage people that are having fun, because my criticism is not that, oh, the game isn't fun anymore. My criticism is that the Endwalker patch content hasn't been fun, but the game is huge. And if there's so much you've left undone, you can go do that and have a good time. But look, it really is my responsibility as someone who listens to the community and tries to look around and see things as they are and have awareness to notice trends that are concerning. Because maybe it doesn't matter to players who are new. Maybe they can go find all these other things, but I don't want to see the game hemorrhaging in-game players. I don't want to see the game losing so many players who made it all the way to the end and were dedicated. I don't want to see these people falling off. I don't want there to be churn. Churn is a really, really big concern that I've had with this game. Churn is when new players keep coming into the game all the time. Lots and lots of new players are always coming into the game. They're always going through the main story quest, which takes hundreds of hours. And they have a shitload of content to do in the backlog. And so there's always going to be more players coming in. And as they come in, players who got bored at Endgame leave. And they might not come back, but they're just getting replaced by the newer players. So overall, the population remains somewhat steady, or even growing a little bit. But you need to keep these most dedicated core invested and engaged long term, because the most dedicated core are the people making guides, making streams, making content, spreading the word, and like making everyone else feel like this is a hype place to be and everything's going great and the game is just so fucking good that no matter how you want to play it, you're gonna have fun. And the devs are paying attention to what our needs are, and they're always listening and giving back. That's what I'm saying. Primary complaint is the patch content. Yes, yes, yes. That's it. I think a lot of people are trying to make it into something else than it is. Primary complaint is patch content. I'm watching your Endwalker main story quest playthrough every now and then. I see how happy and excited you are. Look, 6.0, the Endwalker main story quest playthrough, I loved it. It was amazing. I have nothing bad to say about it. I had a great, great fucking time. I loved it. But just because I found some things in Endwalker disappointing in the patch content doesn't mean that I hate the game, or that I think it's dying, or that it's all over now. Let's all move on. I won't move on. I won't do that. And lately it feels like a lot of people would prefer it if I would. Just move on. But I'm not going anywhere, I'm afraid. Did progging top burn you out? Well, yes, it did, but I was burnt out on raiding. Normally, and by the way, it's not the first time I've been burnt out on raiding. It also happened in Stormblood. But normally I would come back and find other things I wanted to do besides raiding. But I tried that many times and I just couldn't really find a lot from the patches. Honestly, I felt this conversation. I just don't feel the drive to play as much anymore. As much as I would complain to myself about every relic grind. I kept logging in because there'd be more people around to complain about, talk to about the new relic stuff. It feels like no one wants to talk anymore. Last handful of times I've logged in to do stuff, dungeon runs are really quiet. This is the desired goal though. Now if I'm gonna be really doomer about anything, which I try to avoid, I try to be fair, but if I would be doomer about any particular feature in the entire game, it would be dungeons. It would be the expert roulette dungeon. I really, really have concerns with it because it seems like the daily thing to do every day, and it's the exact same every day. Like there's really no variation. in it from day to day. It doesn't require any skill whatsoever. I wish that they would add another tier of the dungeon roulette that's more engaging, because after the first 5-6 times of the dungeon, it just becomes very stale. And I don't know what they would need to do to spice it up, but maybe make your abilities matter more in the dungeons. Just something to make it feel like it mattered that I brought a bard here instead of a dancer, or it mattered that we have a healer. Right now it's to the point you don't even need a healer in your expert list. You don't even need to bring a healer. You can bring a warrior in 3 DPS, you don't even need a healer. What's going on? Almost everybody seems to agree that we miss Baja, even though I understand, looking back on Baja a little bit with rose-colored glasses, it wasn't perfect. I definitely had my own complaints about Baja, but taking all the good and bad and looking back on it, it was still much better to have it than to not have it at all. But what if people had more fun with Island Sanctuary, Criterion, New PvP, or perceived it better instead of Eureka Baja? What then? Well, then there wouldn't be any complaint. That would be awesome. Like, what if Island Sanctuary Criterion was fun? Then we would be doing that right now, probably. And I'd be making videos about how fun and awesome Island Sanctuary is. And here's a guide on how to do Island Sanctuary. Do you know I wanted to make a guide for Island Sanctuary? I was really excited to do it because I heard there would be gardening, and that's how I got started on YouTube, was making gardening videos. But then I did Island Sanctuary, and I realized there's zero need for a guide. It's really, it's impossible to not be able to figure out what to do because it's very linear. There's no need for that. There's just nothing really to dig into, is what I'm saying. But you said right now it's just echo chambering your own assumptions without any real data backup, which all of us don't have. Data. The data is it fun or not? Right? That's the data. I don't need to be a WoW dev checking to see the numbers on how many people are engaged with content. Like, I can see, look around. Maybe we're all just a small minority that just dislike that the content is not for us. I think that probably the core gamer of FFXIV is a small minority, yeah, compared to the new players constantly coming in. That's why I was talking about churn earlier. Look, I really do not want to be in an echo chamber. If you have a different opinion, if you think I'm completely wrong, I'm here streaming, talking about this today to hear from you. And if anybody tries to give you crap for having a wrong opinion, I'm sorry. Having a different opinion. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay. I'll let you be wrong here. Oh, man, yeah. Having the wrong opinion is fine. You're allowed to do that. Yeah, I let the truth out. I sure did. I really did. True thoughts slip out. In other words, there's no point in sharing a different... Oh, please. Oh, please. Nah, but for real, dude. I don't know what you want from me. Honestly. I really am I want everybody to feel free to share their opinions. Whether or not I think you're wrong, whether or not I think you're right, I want you to not be afraid to do that. Yes, I might think you're wrong, but that's okay. That's fine, actually. Out of curiosity, did you play another MMO before this one? Yeah. I was really addicted to World of Warcraft for years and years and years. Since 2004, I was heavily addicted to World of Warcraft, and then I quit in Warlords of Draenor era because it was really depressing at the time. It was really lonely, and I just sat in my garrison all the time, and there wasn't a lot to do. And I said in my video that the Island Sanctuary, sitting in it, it gave me the exact same feeling that I had all those years ago sitting in my garrison. Only in my garrison I actually had more to do than in my island. And a lot of people did not like me saying that. But it's true, dude. Like, okay, in your garrison, we all like to shit on it, but you had the follower missions. The followers all have attributes that you need to consider when sending them on the missions. because the missions have attributes as well, so you need to line it up to have like the plains runner go to the plains, to have the undead person go with the other undead. There was the inn where different followers would arrive and you could recruit them and get new followers. That was interesting. You had an auction house, market board. You had teleports. You had mounts you could get. You had invasions of like enemies would come in and attack your garrison, and then you need to defend them off, and you could get loot for that. Actually, the issue with the garrison was more like you could build ships. There was a shipbuilding dock at some point. The issue was really more there was too much to do, to the point no one wanted to leave. But this is like with my island. I feel like you can do it all. It really doesn't affect anything outside the game. I mean, outside of the island at all. It feels pointless. The buildings don't do anything. They're just there for decoration. Like, I remember putting down my landmark, and the landmark, it just sits there. It's to take screenshots in. And minions don't do anything. They just stand around. The animals don't do anything. They just stand around. Everything is just for the workshop spreadsheet, which is really boring. Do I think Endwalker is as bad as Warlords of Draenor? No. No, it's not. But the island is worse than the garrison. It's very much like the garrison, but actually all the good things that were good about the garrison, it doesn't have that. As someone who likes raiding and challenging content, Endwalker's been a blast. Asphodelis and Abyssos. Look, the raids is probably the best thing that you can do. I agree, I've had a lot of fun raiding. DSR was amazing. The Pandemonium raids have been fun, which I mentioned in the video. Criterion is fun. True, it is. However, I do think that all that content requires a certain kind of commitment and effort that many people don't have. A lot of casuals do not want to make those commitments. They don't want to be in a raid where they're going to be locked down for 2 hours, maybe 4 at a time, because they need to be able to easily get up quickly. Maybe they have a kid or something and they need to be able to just run around and have the freedom to not be locked into a group commitment. And if you don't raid, Endwalker is pretty barren. I also would say the PvP change is very underrated. Yes. The casual queue is alive, but the ranked queue is dead after a couple weeks after the patch rewards have come out. So if you want to do casual, you can. And it's I would recommend trying it. It's fun. But ranked is very difficult to get into from what I've seen. I am actually looking for a comment that disagrees. I know so far I've been reading the comments that I literally don't... I was searching, and I'm glad that everyone does agree, but I was just making sure that I'm not sitting here in an echo chamber. I don't want that. I want to... The only people I've seen who disagree are people who are new players who say that they have a huge backlog of content, so that's why they're having fun, but they know if they had to rely on Endwalker patch content only, they would be bored. I currently am unemployed, so my game time comes in and a friend gives me a game time card. I used game time card when the second step for the Endwalker relics dropped, and when it was just the exact same step, the tombstone grind, I was so frustrated about wasting that game time card for the relic grind. Oh my god, like I hate to laugh, dude. Because I'm not laughing at you in your situation. I'm laughing at like the ridiculousness of your situation, where you've got this game time card and you can't wait to play for 30 days to work on your relic. It's awesome, it's exciting, and then you're like, oh, I'm done in 5 seconds. Honestly, it's so relatable. It's such a valid point. You forget this is a subscription game. How can we justify charging someone $15 a month for the amount of content that we're getting in these patches? This is $15 every month for the 4 months in between major patches. That's quite a lot. When maybe you can do it in a week or less. If you're already cleared your backlog, it's really unacceptable. I've been feeling extremely alone in this, like I was crazy and there was something wrong with me. I'm very thankful everything I've been thinking and feeling is finally being voiced. I hate to say it, but frankly, there's been a lot of gaslighting in the community about it. Yoshi P once said that running an MMO is like running a country. Listen and adapt. A complaint is worth twice a compliment. Did he really say that? Running an MMORPG is like running a country. Learn to listen and adapt. A complaint is worth twice a compliment. The silent always leave first. If citizens are complaining, it means they still care. Holy shit. That's why he has always been such a respected person in our community. It's because he has always listened to the feedback. He's always felt like he has been in touch and tried to pay attention to what players want. And honestly, I think that's probably why we got some experimentation with some new types of content with Island Sanctuary and Criterion. Like, those are things that we really wanted. We asked for difficult small group content. We asked for more casual content. And I'm not happy with the execution, but I feel like in addition to listening to the player base, he should also not be too afraid to innovate all the way and shake up the old core systems too much. Because I feel like it just feels like they did it halfway instead of all the way. But this is really good. Like, this is the Yoshi P quote that people need to be memorizing and repeating instead of this shit about go play other games, okay? I think we've all heard it a million times at this point. We're all glad that he isn't possessive over us in playing his game, but for God's sake. Thank you so much for making this video. I'm normally so enthusiastic about FF14. When I have a complaint or say something I don't like, everyone just falls silent. You know what? I could probably make a whole video just about this. I feel like the discussion is just as much about Endwalker patches as it has been about the players' reticence to criticize and the feeling like it's, if I criticize, then people are going to come at me and attack me. Which is really, really weird. I have heard people say that I wasn't giving constructive criticism. My feedback wasn't constructive enough. Do you know what constructive criticism is? Do you know what non-constructive criticism is? Non-constructive criticism is when you say, this is shit. That's not constructive. We don't know anything from that. There are no actionable points. That doesn't tell us anything. That's why it's not constructive. Now, if I point out what felt underwhelming and why, that's something that you as a dev can take, use, and that's helpful for you, right? Like, if you paint me a picture and you hand it to me and I say, this is shit, and I call it up and I throw it away, you're just gonna go crazy wondering, well, why was it so shit? What was so bad about it? I guess anything I make is gonna be shit. I didn't say that. I would not say that. That doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help the devs. It doesn't help anyone. Now, if you hand me your painting and I say, oh, well, this isn't as good as your other painting because it's not as colorful as before. I liked how you used the color before, and now there's no color on it. Why didn't you color it? Will you color it this time? And I hand it back to you. I said, well, I really loved it when you colored it the way you did. That was beautiful. And you're like, okay, well, maybe I don't want to color it, but at least now I know why she didn't like it this time. That's all I can say. And I don't know why some people are acting like I need to give a whole PowerPoint presentation with like a 4-point actionable plan about exactly what they need to add. I'm not a dev. I don't know what the fuck, how to make a game. I don't know any of that shit. All I know is what I've seen, when I've had fun, when I haven't had as much fun. And it's up to them to take that player feedback and turn it into something. Like, put that in the oven and bake it into something better. That's constructive criticism. That's constructive feedback. Okay, it doesn't mean you have to tell Yoshi P exactly what to do. Did Did this video get posted on the subreddit? I heard that someone had put it on the subreddit and then it got downvoted to shit. So surprisingly, this thing has got 5 upvotes after getting downvoted to shit, which I'm really surprised by. I think she made excellent points, and her criticism is from someone who clearly has passion and love for the game still. Holy shit, what? She never said it was a bad expansion, just that it wasn't as good as others in terms of reasons to log in. Oh my god, someone who actually watched the video. Someone on Reddit who actually watched the video and then made a comment? This is crazy. Hopefully people can appreciate her criticism, even if they don't agree with it. I cannot believe what I'm reading. This is the FFXIV community. It's blasphemy to say the game is anything but perfect. Mod him, VIP him, gift him a sub, true. People just downvoted and didn't even open the thread. Or this guy would be downvoted too. True, they did. They saw the title. And they got mad. The title of the video is baity. Well, that's why I named it the worst expansion I have played. Because I wanted to allude to the expansion experience. Like, the patch experience of me playing it at Endgame. Like, I didn't want to just call it Endwalker's the worst expansion. I didn't want to call it that. I wanted to, like, let you know that this is a video about my time playing this expansion. Does that make sense? But I can see how someone might interpret it as, like, oh, it's the worst one ever. Yeah, I can kind of see that. But YouTube titles are rough. It is hard, because you don't want to make the title that's like, the Endwalker post-patch experience was less interesting than usual. No one's going to click on that. Like, obviously you need it to be somewhat interesting to click on, or people aren't going to watch it at all. But I also don't want to lie, so I honestly can't disagree with her, at least based on your summary. Well, at least you read the summary. I still enjoy Endwalker overall. 6.0 was one of my favorite of all expansions. Same. I cried so much. It was wonderful. But everything after that's a mixed bag. Criterion, all thanks for flops. The dungeon community was people who are disappointed with how easy Eureka Orthos was. Really? I need to talk to Angelus Demonis about it. I want to ask his opinion about Eureka, because I have heard from the people that run Deep Dungeon as like in-game hardcore content that it's easy. But then you hear from the people who run Deep Dungeon as casual leveling content that it's too hard. It's too hard to level in, and it's too easy to do as anything. What happened here? Really? Like, what the fuck happened? Are they looking at how people are engaging with the content? Sadly, this is one of those person you hate just made a good point situations with this vid. Why do you hate me? What did I do? You don't even know me, actually. Basically the same. Here. Ouch. Sad. It's telling that most of the comments here are personal attacks against Zepla rather than discussing anything she talked about in the video. I feel like the more I scroll down into the bottom part of this, because all the good normal comments are getting upvoted, but the personal attacks they're gonna be here the further down I scroll, which is really scary. It's sadly a waste of time to do any mild critique of this game on this sub. Too many people are invest for too many second life reasons. They can't even handle softballs. A number of those comments were also aggressively emphatic about how they don't care about Zepla and won't be watching her stupid video. Posting angry comments about her or her video in this thread without watching it. That's good shit. Oh my god, I'm scared. It's not that crazy. She's pretty hostile to the overall community, but she hides it behind giggles and a thin veneer of joking. What? Bro, what? What the fuck? This is news to me. This is like mental gymnastics like I have never seen in my entire life. Oh, it's like, guys, look, she seems like she's having fun and she's joking around and laughing, and she seems like she likes you, but really, she's hostile to you. That's what you need to understand. Like, this is some tinfoil hat bullshit right here. Hostile literally where? Not one thing was said in the video other than people will attack me for this, which is demonstrably correct. Even if she was genuinely hostile, you all clearly deserve it. What the fuck? Look, I don't agree. I wouldn't be hostile to someone even if I felt like they deserved it. Because that's just really not like that. My only thing is, while I agree with the video's points, as I struggle to find reasons to log in, how is Endwalker worse than Heavensward? Heavensward almost killed the game a second time. At 0, well, that's why I called the video expansions that I have played. Maybe I should have gone more into detail about like my history with the game, actually, looking back. Because I was a brand new player. I just got to max level in the middle of Heavensward. That's when I started. So I think that those concerns are probably valid, Roberto, but I was such a new player at that time, I wasn't able to really accurately assess that. So for me, Endwalker's the worst that I've played in terms of the patch experience. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's my hostile giggles! Every time I'm giggling, it's actually hostility. Just be aware. If I'm laughing, it's hostility. Damn, looking at these comments, she was right. The FF14 community can't take any criticism of the game. You guys didn't even watch the video. Or people just don't like her. Well, that's okay. I mean, you're not gonna please everybody all the time. I can accept the fact that some people just don't like me. You gotta. Look, if you're gonna be on the internet at all, if you're gonna make YouTube videos, and you're gonna share your opinion anywhere, people won't like it. I mean, I say this a lot, but I remember when Tom Hanks got COVID, and there were a lot of people like celebrating that on Twitter because they hate Tom Hanks, and I couldn't believe this shit. And I'm nowhere near as nice and friendly and cool as Tom Hanks, but it just shows you that there's going to be haters. Wherever you go, there's going to be the haters. Okay, that's all. It doesn't matter who you are or how nice you try to be, but my God. You think I should stop looking at the thread? I think you're probably right. I think you're probably right. I think it's just gonna be, the further I go, the worse it's gonna go. So I think it's not smart to do that. Her content has changed drastically. It all focuses around whatever meta piece of drama is going on, which I personally don't care much for. I mean, what kind of content would you prefer? I guess more guides. The thing is with my guides is a lot of them I feel like are still up to date because the game hasn't changed a lot. So like my gardening guides that I made in 2015 are still current. My important quests to unlock guides is still pretty current. I'm trying to just make videos about stuff that I personally care about. Yeah, it's just mostly stuff that I care about. But of course I think it's natural for my content to change over time. I'm growing and changing, and I'm evolving as a person quite a bit. And I think I'm in the middle of a new evolution right now, where I just feel a lot better overall. I'm feeling like more free and more open and less judgy of stuff. And I want to be there more. I want to be like just more honest and stuff. And I want to, not shy away from the bad stuff, but also still celebrate the good stuff. I don't want it to be all or nothing. I think it's just a thing that you might see over time with any YouTuber. If you've been around for a while, I mean, I'm a person, and I'm growing and changing. And so, of course, my content is going to grow and change with me. I definitely can tell you that years ago, like, I think in the Shadowbringers era, I was really, really afraid to say anything even remotely critical about the game. And I felt like I was just really, really sweet all the time, like almost too much. I was just worried about anybody being mad at me, and I really wanted everybody to like me. That was super important to me. And now, obviously I would rather people like me. But if you don't, you don't. Okay? Like, it's a fact of life. You're not going to be everybody's cup of tea.